Praise the Lord and good morning. This is Pastor Charles Ferguson. We're in the name of Clair United Methodist Church. I serve as a senior pastor for Clair and Wesley Church of Hope U.M.C. on the south side of Columbus. I'm so glad to be with you today. I'm actually really glad to not only be with you today, but man, I feel so much better because I know that the blood has so much power. It reaches to the highest mountain and flows to the lowest valley. The knowledge that I got, that saving grace that covers my life, makes everything better, even in times like these. So I'm glad to see you in this space. For every one of you that's with us online right now, I thank God for you. I thank God that you're with us. And I thank God that this opportunity has come on this day. So much is going on. So much is happening, but God is still on the throne. Just as a reminder before we get started, if you have any prayer requests, any praise reports, anything that you want the Lord to know about from you, anything that you want us to join in prayer with you for, please put it in the comment line. Let us know so that we can stay connected and make sure that we are praying for you. Because even in times like these, God still has the power to not only work miracles, but to make a way out of no way. So God, I thank you for this morning. I thank you for the opportunity to be present with you. I thank you because so many times we look to so many different areas and so much of what's going on, the negative, that we sometimes don't stop and just say thank you for what you are doing. Thank you for how you're keeping. Thank you for how you're still healing. Thank you for how you're still delivering even in these tough seasons. God, I pray that today would not just be a moment for worship, but a time of empowering your people to rise up, not to stand by the wayside, not to feel victimized anymore by what may be in the atmosphere, but to take charge and to be able to know that there's not only a reality in serving you, but there's power that comes from on high that does not have to settle for the mundane and the status quo. Help us today to lift your people up, to allow them to know that they are not only your children, but they are heirs and joint heirs of the kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. So we're grateful to God for being here today. I just want to share a few things with you by way of announcement. First, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everyone from Clair and from Wesley, and especially those that may be partnering with us, who have been giving, who have been allowing us to do the work of the ministry. Sometimes we think the work of the ministry is just the preaching of the gospel. That's only one aspect. But there's so many things that we are looking to do, so many things that we need to do in seasons like this, where we're dealing with unrest as well as dealing with a global pandemic. Just because those things are going on does not mean that the opportunity to do ministry has gone by the wayside. As a matter of fact, it's only increased. So I want to say thank you to everyone who contributes regularly to help us to make it through, to do what we have to do for the kingdom's sake. If you have not chosen to give as of yet, or you may be just looking to sow seed, or for those that may be a part of the congregation and trying to find ways to make sure that the contributions come, that the tithes and offerings hit, you can mail in your tithes and offerings to either Wesley Church of Hope or Clair U.M.C. Also, you can go online to either website, clairumc.com or wesleychurchofhope.org, and give online as well. The information should be flashing for you for either the address or the websites as opportunities for you to give. And I thank you in advance for what you are doing and what you will do. Part of the reason that I get excited is because your giving allows us to do the things that we're doing. Online ministry allows us to feed so many people. We've been able to keep people in our congregation fed throughout the last few months of the pandemic. We've been able to do more contributions across the line. And because of this, we're getting ready to do hopefully some more innovative things, which leads me to what's coming up at the end of this month. So I know we're dealing with so many different things when it comes to COVID, when it comes to just trying to navigate a brand new world. And sometimes it takes a while to try to plan out things. So even in the midst of what we're dealing with, there's ways to make things happen, even in the midst of physical distancing and trying to navigate a new world. So here's what we're planning on doing. And I say planning because we're going to make sure that we do everything safe. So everything is subject to change, But as of right now, let's mark on our calendars July 24th and July 26th. July 24th and July 26th. What are you talking about? Well, on July 24th, as a Friday evening, we're going to have a drive-in movie experience. Yes, the drive-in movie is probably one of the oldest methods of entertainment, but God has blessed us to be able to do some things in a very unique way. So, mark on your calendars, July 24th, Friday, and we'll have more information throughout this week so we can give you the details. But we are planning on having a drive-in movie experience on July 24th at the grounds of Wesley Church of Hope, 2935 Bulin Avenue. What we're going to do, we're going to have a setup, and it's going to be socially distanced. It's going to follow every protocol that we have, but you'll be able to come as you sign up online. We'll have that set up hopefully within the week. You'll be able to go to the wesleychurchofhope.org website, and I will come on and announce hopefully within the week exactly where to go so you can do what needs to be done. But you'll have to reserve your parking space, or you can reserve what will be a 10-foot square on the grounds in our lot, so we can make sure that we are socially distancing and making sure that there's opportunity for families and all to be able to do what they need to do with one another. We want to be able to have some fellowship time, have that opportunity to just be together as community, to watch a movie together, to be able to enjoy ourselves together, to do something that's a little bit different than just being in the house. So on July 24th, drive-in movie experience. You don't want to miss out. We'll share more details, but be on the lookout on wesleychurchofhope.org for information pertaining to that, so you will be able to reserve your spot for the 24th. And then that weekend on the 26th, that's the fourth Sunday of this month, we're going to have an outdoor worship experience. We're going to make sure that, once again, protocols are taken into account. We will be socially distancing. We will make sure that there's plenty of opportunity. And because we're having the drive-in set up, we have done everything in our power to prepare for not only being outdoors, but even for those that may be dealing with the fact they want to be present, but they don't want to be all in the hot sun. We're going to be able to make sure that you're able to hear the service even from your car, from the parking lot. But we will be on the same property, Wesley Church of Hope, 2935 Bulin Avenue, and we're going to have a wonderful experience in the Lord. And on that day, we will share together in communion. That's why we're not doing it today. So on the fourth Sunday, we're going to have an outdoor service, 10 a.m. If you want to be present, you have a great opportunity to be there. Social distancing, physical distancing will be observed. All protocols will be taken into account. We will be in that same space, same opportunity. We want you to come on out and be a part if you are able, if you feel comfortable in being with us as well. We will also still have everything online for the worship experience, so you will have multiple ways of being connected with us on that day. But we want to make certain that we're still doing everything that we can to expand your experience and opportunity. So whatever you choose to do, we're right there with you. So remember, mark your calendar. July 24th, drive-in movie night. July 26th, drive-up, drive-in worship at 10 a.m. And more details will be coming soon. I'm excited for what God is doing, and I'm prayerful that I'll be able to see you that weekend. God bless you and may heaven smile upon you. Let's continue in our worship experience now. We want to lift up the name of Jesus through song, and we'll see you real soon on the other side as we continue in worship today.
made heaven and earth. He said he would not suffer thy foot to be moved. The Lord would keep with me. He will not slumber nor sleep. Oh, the Lord is thy keeper, the Lord is my shade upon thy right hand, upon thy right hand. Oh, the sun shall not smite me by day, or the noon by night. He shall preserve my soul, even forevermore. Oh, my help, my help, my help. All of my help cometh from the Lord. My help, my help, my help. All of my help cometh from the Lord.
I will lift up my eyes to the hills, from which cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord which made heaven and earth. He said he would not suffer thy foot to be moved. The Lord which keepeth thee, he will not slumber nor
Daniel, the first chapter, verses 3 through 20. Then the king commanded Ashpenaz, his chief eunuch, to bring some of the people of Israel, both of the royal family and of the nobility, youths without blemish, of good appearance and skillful in all wisdom, endowed with knowledge, understanding, learning, and competent to stand in the king's palace and to teach them the literature and language of the Chaldeans. The king assigned them a daily portion of the food that the king ate and of the wine that he drank. They were to be educated for 3 years, and at the end of that time, they were to stand before the king. Among these were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah of the tribe of Judah. And the chief of the eunuchs gave them names. Daniel he called Belteshazzar, Hananiah he called Shadrach, Mishael he called Meshach, and Azariah he called Abednego. But Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the king's food or with the wine that he drank. Therefore, he asked the chief of the eunuchs to allow him not to defile himself. And God gave David favor and compassion in the sight of the chief of the eunuchs. And the chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who assigned your food and your drink. For why should he see that you were in worse condition than the youths who are of your own age? So you would endanger my head with the king. Then Daniel said to the steward, whom the chief of the eunuchs had assigned over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, test your servants for 10 days. Let us be given vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance and the appearance of the youths who eat the king's food be observed by you, and deal with your servants according to what you see. So he listened to them in this matter and tested them for 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, it was seen that they were better in appearance and fatter in flesh than all the youths who ate the king's food. So the steward took away their food and the wine that they were to drink and gave them vegetables. As for these 4 youths, God gave them learning and skill in all literature and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. At the end of the time, when the king had commanded that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king spoke with them, and among all of them, none were found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore, they stood before the king, and in every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters that were in all his kingdom. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God.
Give
Grateful to God that He's given us miracles, that He has been there for us the entire time, that He continues to help us through. Now, if you were with us last week, it was needless to say, a pretty solid time, a pretty interesting moment in time. Seems like we were crossing over into a different part of what it means to really serve God and really take things to a new level. And so I'll be honest with you. I was in prayer, and honestly, I thought I was going to go back to some things and go back to some different thoughts and some sermons and some different things that I have done in the past just to revisit. And God impressed upon my heart, we can't go anywhere now. We can't stop. We can't stop in our tracks. Just because you have a moment doesn't mean the moment ends. You're now a part of something that's much greater than yourself. So it is in this moment that we start this new series. We ain't going nowhere. And I know right now, almost anybody that's my age, a little bit younger, the first thing that you hear in your head is probably Diddy. And I ain't gonna quote, I ain't gonna do it. And even right now, in the space, we kind of breaking up in the space because we know that's the first thing that's come to people's minds. Everybody was thinking about what they were doing when they heard that song. But that phrase has a little more meaning. It has a greater meaning than you could ever imagine. Because right now, we can't go anywhere. We can't stop what we are doing. We cannot stop pressing into what God not only has for us, but into dismantling what has already existed in order to move forward, to be the people of God and the people of faith that we're called to be in this season. So in this first part of this series, I want to talk from this thought. You can't appropriate my identity. You can't appropriate my identity. You know, it seems like every time I get up here now, I start reflecting really hard, right? And I start reflecting about the last 22 years I've been in ministry. And I started thinking about starting at 16 years old in pulpit of the Mount Olivet Baptist Church, 428 East Main Street. The little old church on Main Street. And I think about February 13th, which happened to have been a Friday night. And I remember getting up, doing the best impression I could of a preacher. When I got up there, I was in the text, I was in the book, I was there, but I had a few of the cheap theatrics too. And if I'm honest with you today, I can tell you right now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, right, that if I could tell my 16-year-old self to sit down somewhere and think, man, I would tell him, whatever you do, don't throw off that jacket. Don't try to get into the stuff that you only saw. Focus in on trying to make sure that you were anointed enough to say what you needed to say. When I think about that 16-year-old me, I think about that 16-year-old who was not only trying his best to be faithful to the task of serving God the best way he knew how, right? But I was thinking about that 16-year-old me who had been in the private school sector. Been in the private school sector for a little bit. Matter of fact, I was in private school from preschool to the 10th grade, that 10th grade year when I began in ministry. My mother made a lot of sacrifices because she believed that putting me in a private Christian school was going to help my development, my educational development. It was going to help my social development. And if I'm honest, academically, I hung with most, if not everybody. Academically, I knew that I had the capacity to do whatever others were trying to do. As a matter of fact, I'm not shy about the fact that I knew deep down in my heart and my soul that I had the mental, emotional, philosophical, educational capacity to hang with any of my contemporaries, and even to this day. I probably feel that way, but there was one thing that I was not prepared for. One thing that I was not ready to handle. You see, I was one of few African American students in my school. I probably saw in the classes that I had in high school, maybe 2 other faces that looked like mine. At times, it was easy to count all the black students in the high school because 9 times out of 10, we all hung with each other in one way or another. And primarily, some of that hanging was the result of being athletes. And the hardest part was being in a school that told you on surface we're all a part of the same gang. We're all people together, and we all should be held to the same standard. The difficulty was hearing that type of indoctrination, almost to the detriment of missing and forgetting that I was still unique. Realizing that when I was on the court, nobody cared too much about my GPA as much as they cared about my ability to rebound. That when I was going through certain things, there were moments when it was just handled as simply regular old teenage moments. When there were hardly any people that would ever deal with me according to my unique circumstance as being an African American male. There were barely any African American teachers in my presence. I didn't have anybody to identify with that could really share with me how to navigate the spaces. And hindsight, when I look back over my experience, there were people that were willing to appropriate my talent, my skill set, and indoctrinate me into something that did not fit me in order to perpetuate a narrative that was not completely true. Today I wear the t-shirt that has Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali on it. And as you probably saw on the first slide, you saw the memorial in D.C. of Martin Luther King Jr. You see figures within the African American tradition and history that at one time all of them were vilified by many people. It is, as a matter of fact, not only vilified by those in the nation, but vilified by those that looked like them. Vilified because they were speaking a message that was contrary to what people wanted to deal with. And now, people that were so hotly troubled by what Ali would say when it came to Vietnam, now that he's gone and now that he's in the grave, people lift him as an icon, but never want to admit the fact that they did not want to deal with the truths that he spoke. Martin Luther King Jr. has a monument in Washington, D.C., the hub of the federal government. But people forget that he was always spied on by the CIA, the FBI, always had people trailing him. At one point, had government officials saying that he was the most dangerous Negro in America because his very presence caused trouble and trauma and trial everywhere. That the fact that his non-violent approach to trying to raise the consciousness of these United States, or as some would say, these continuing attempting United States, his non-violent approach was causing violence because he was bringing about a message that was contrary to those who benefited most. And now that we are in 2020, with all that is happening everywhere, with all the stuff that is going on when it comes to human rights, civil rights, when it comes to police brutality, when it comes to all the various things dealing with race in this country that have come back to the surface, people want to appropriate Dr. King. And they want to say things like, why can't you be like him? Not realizing that when you say that, you're suggesting that in order to be like him, your words must be great, but your presence must be silenced. That if I can extract the best parts of you and keep you silent from disrupting the way that things have been, then I will be able to appropriate and dictate what it is that you have been called to do and never have to change a single step whatsoever. It is easy then for me to take your rhythm, not engage in your blues, and make certain that I produce something different so that the narrative can stay in my favor. That's what Daniel was dealing with. Daniel and his boys. Listen, I refuse to call them by their slave names because some of you know them as Belshazzar, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But their names are Daniel, Hananiah, Azariah, Mishael. These four boys, friends, brothers, comrades, homies, whatever you want to call them, were a part of a greater group of young people that were extracted from Israel because they were a part of a certain class. They were a part of the nobility. They were considered to be a part of the privileged. They were considered to be a part of the talented 10th. They were the ones that Nebuchadnezzar wanted. Because if I could get them while they are teenagers, if I can get them in the midst of their ability to rationalize and understand the world, if I can get them in the infancy of their potential, I can shape and mold them into what I need them to be in order to enhance the world that I deem for myself. That was the goal of Nebuchadnezzar. Not to just dominate Israel, not to just take over the region, but to indoctrinate these young men and shift the culture in order for it then to look like Babylon. But these four teenagers made up in their mind that their condition was not going to cause them to waver in making certain that they remain who they were. They were not going to allow themselves to become a part of the Babylonian way. As a matter of fact, they decided on their own that no matter what was presented to them, they would refuse it and stay true to the principles that they understood about serving Yahweh. I want you to think about this for just a moment. Think about what it takes for somebody to be so connected to who they are and what they're rooted in, that no matter the negativity of their condition, they make the conscious decision not to back down and to remain true to who they are. Let me tell you something today. This is a word for some of you. Some of you right now have been struggling for years, and I'm a living witness to it. So I'm telling you not from a place of what I've heard, I'm telling you from a place of what I know. You have struggled for many years trying to fit in places, trying to assimilate the places, trying to take on personalities that had nothing to do with who you are at your core. You have tried your best to make people feel comfortable. You have even tried to find ways to become more comfortable in your skin by justifying that your uniqueness is not the thing that people ought to see. You have actually tried your best to tone yourself down so that you're more palatable. When the truth is, God doesn't want you to tone down your uniqueness. As a matter of fact, if you are connected to the God of the universe, the creator of all, you ought to tune up and turn up your uniqueness on 10. Because God is not asking you to fit into things that were not assigned for your life. God has asked you to be yourself. And let me take it one more step. The reason that people want our uniqueness and to be able to control our uniqueness is not because of just benefiting themselves, but they realize that they cannot come up with anything like this on their own. And you thought that you weren't enough. Think about this. These young men knew exactly who they were. Jewish culture teaches us that they were already ingrained with the things of God from their youth. There was no question about who they were. They knew they were the chosen people of God. They knew their history. They knew about Moses. They knew about Joshua. They knew about how they got into the promised land. They knew all these things. They were not disconnected to their history. They knew of Joseph. They knew of Egyptian bondage. They knew about all that kind of stuff. And yet and still, they recognized who they were and what they are and where they come from. And when slavery hit for them, when they were sitting at the training tables with their other brothers, eating the food that the king provided, drinking the wine that the king provided, they looked at themselves, looked at their overseer and said, listen, we can't do this. We can't do this. I know that we're in bondage today, but even though we're in bondage right now, and even though you are over our bodies, we can't do this. We cannot defile ourselves with food given to other gods. We can't do this. This ain't us. The overseer said, you putting me in a bad position. I got to carry out the king's word. But they looked at him and said, listen, we believe so much in who we are in God. We'll put ourselves to the test and we'll put it all on the line. You give us 10 days. You give us 10 days to just drink water. Just eat vegetables, to control our diet. You give us 10 days. And in those 10 days, you test us. If we are not thinking clearer, if we're not functioning better, if we're tested and we don't prove that we are better at every single thing you throw at us, we'll put it all to the side and do what you want. 10 days. And the text says, 10 days later, they were not only sharper Y'all. Apologize for the quick delay. No worries, we're back up. It got so deep. Listen, y'all, we're still there. It gets so deep and it gets so, I don't know. It gets so challenging that these brothers are now elevated from just being teenagers, just being other slaves, to now being the best of the best. And now Nebuchadnezzar wants to use these four to enhance his kingdom. So much so that he wanted to change their names, do all these different things. In this life, people are going to tell you that who you are is not enough. But what they're really saying is, who you are is enough. But I just want to find a way to extract it so that I can use it for my benefit. You see, the others fell right into line. They started doing everything like they were doing in Babylon. What is it that we say from time to time? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Yeah, that may be true in order to survive. But the reality is, in order to be what God has created you to be, you need to still know how to be yourself. And I dare say this, that the greatest challenge of every believer, every person, every individual on planet Earth is having enough confidence to know that God created you exactly the way you were meant to be created. That your uniqueness is important to the realm that you're in. And that no matter how much people may try to discourage you, they're only doing it in order to create an opening to drain out your uniqueness and repackage it for their benefit. But you and I need to know how to say no. We need to say no to those that would attempt to try to put us into a bondage that suddenly would suggest that no, we can't do what we want to do. We can't fulfill our purpose in God. We can't be what God intends for us to be. No, we can't be us. No. You need to reject the notion that people are trying to say that all of a sudden, when you say Black Lives Matter, that all of a sudden people want to tell you that all lives matter. No. Take pride in the fact that you know that you're black. James Brown said it best, say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't take for granted when somebody comes up to you and you're supposed to be in a relationship with them. All right, here we go. This is the flow. Don't let somebody come to you and you're in a relationship with them and all of a sudden they try to tell you exactly what they think they want out of you because they knew what they got when they got with you. And all of a sudden they want to change up a whole bunch of stuff. No. That's not what they want. What they want is to have control of the uniqueness that is you rather than find their own and how that matches and works together. Come on, people. All of us have been subject at one time or another to trying to deal with the conditions we're in and then not realizing that when we are discouraged in the conditions we're in, we open up the door for people to try to extract from us our strength, our uniqueness, our wholeness, our personality. We have allowed so much to happen that sometimes when you look in the mirror, you don't even know who you're looking at. Because you've given so much of yourself away in the name of fitting in to where you were not designed to fit. I reject the notion that preachers that don't look like me, but suddenly have a hoop and a holler that is usually assigned to my tradition of being in the black church, that suddenly they know how to preach to black people. No, sir, no, ma'am. That's appropriation of a celebration. That doesn't mean that we know how to really talk. And I understand that some people will start to get up in arms because it seems like I'm just talking so black now. But here's the truth. The truth is, all of us don't know how to talk to every unique situation. And in order for us to be able to deal with the unique circumstances of life, we need to be able to have some kind of understanding and embrace the sacredness of our unique situations. So much so that we can respect it enough to be able to learn, identify, not try to assimilate or appropriate, but respect, honor, and lift up the traditions and lift up the things that make us unique in order for us to ultimately become the beloved community. But we can't get there trying to silence folk, trying to put people to the side, trying to tell them, no, unless you come this way, you can't be accepted. You can't be brought in. So why in the world should I reject any level of appropriation to my uniqueness? Let me tell you why, and I'm finished. First is a simple thing. Our identity costs too much. Our identity costs too much. You might see something to the side of that means your name. Listen, your name, your identity costs too much. Listen to these four brothers' names if you've never heard. Daniel means God is my judge. Hananiah, Yahweh has been gracious. Azariah, Yahweh has helped. Mishael, who is equal to God. Everything about their name offers praise and clarity about who God is to their lives. A name is supposed to